Hello, hello. Happy marvelous Monday, everybody. I hope that you are well. Listen, I am super excited that you are joining me here. Before I get into the segment, this is part two. I'm talking about property management companies, landlords, that were allegedly sued for price fixing. And what does that mean? All right. So, part two, I talked about it. I touched on it last week, but today I just wanted to do a recap. Before I get into it again, I just want to say thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Those of you who are watching on Facebook, show me some love in the comment section. If you're watching on LinkedIn, let me know. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know. Let me know that you can hear me okay. And also, what platform are you tuned in on? If this is your first time, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Carissa Span, the landlord and tenant expert, each and every Monday. I'm live on these platforms to share information for the entire rental community as pertains to landlord and tenant matters. It is an absolute joy and a pleasure to have you join me today. All right. But before I get into the segment, let me just put up my disclaimer. Information that I share on any of my platforms is not legal advice. However, I am sharing typically best practices and tips in the industry. All right. And so as I get into the conversation today, I just want to touch on this matter because I know that this is something that is really pressing because I've received some emails, some calls, some text messages just after last week's discussion on this very matter. So I wanted to come back, talk about it, get your feedback. Let me know if you've heard about it. Let me know what you think about this situation because this could definitely be a big game changer, right? And so as we are talking about this matter, I've said several times throughout this year that a lot of landlords would be sued based off of practices. And so this case is, again, it's alleged charges, right? Allegedly, the attorney general for Washington, D.C. has sued 14 of the largest companies in Washington, D.C. All right, so that's what this conversation today is all about. And this is a matter that I'm carefully watching because as a property management educator, I am always concerned about matters that impact the rental community. All right. So I want this conversation to be engaging and thought provoking. So any questions that you have, any comments that you have, any remarks or observations that you have, please place it in the comment section. If you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go over to my YouTube page, smash that subscribe button so that you'll be the first to know when I am live and when I am online. So today, listen, I have one mission only. That's to talk about this matter, make sure that I'm presenting information, and I'm sharing today information for you, whether you're a landlord, you are a housing professional, or you are a tenant. So stay tuned because I have tips for landlords and I have tips for tenants. If you find that this information is of value, please like, tag, and share it with someone else. Because again, I want to share this information because I know that this does definitely impact the rental community. Is that all right? I am going to hey, Ms. Braxton, thank you so much for tuning in from LinkedIn. I appreciate you showing up today, beautiful. All right, so listen, I do want to get into the discussion because this is hot, this is heavy, and I've had some conversations, especially with one of the alleged companies in this matter. And so for those who are watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. And again, if you find it helpful, please like, please tag, please share it with someone else. I love to hear perspectives and feedbacks. And again, all this is alleged, okay? I'm not a judge. I'm not the jury. I don't have any of these companies on trial. I have not spoken with the owners or upper representatives of these companies, okay? But I do want you to, any questions that you have, put in the chat comment. section because I want to get your feedback, right? Because ultimately, and at the end of the day, in the rental community, it doesn't matter if it's Washington, D.C., it doesn't matter if it's North Carolina, Georgia, anywhere where competitors are coming together to price fix, allegedly, that would be a problem because that negatively impacts the rental community. It definitely would negatively impact smaller landlords, right? Because let's take for instance, if this is true, and if this is going on in a community, can you imagine how the smaller landlords would feel because maybe their rentals, they can't get renters, they can't get quality tenants, or maybe they just feel left out, right? This can go a number of ways, but let me get into the conversation today. And I want to engage you in this process. I want to engage you in this conversation because it is important. And so who does it impact? It impacts, let's start with tenants, because situations that matters like this could definitely drive up the prices. And we know that affordable housing is something that is trying to be preserved. And we should always be mindful of affordable housing. Those of us who are in the industry, that's something that we should be aware of. Okay. So I've been in the property management industry for years. I'm a property management educator. We know that in some markets, especially DC, it is pro-tenant. Now, because of that, I know that sometimes, and I'm not saying that this happened in this matter, but I'm just putting it out there. Sometimes landlords have been found guilty of increasing the rent so that they would not have to accept participants who are in some sort of housing subsidy program. Okay. Now, that's not stated in this claim. I don't want to put that in there, but I do know that this has happened, right? And so that is a way for landlords to legally discriminate against voucher participants, rapid rehousing participants, housing programs where they have tenants whose rent is subsidized by the government. And I know that has happened because, like I said, in jurisdictions that are pro-tenant, landlords have a hard time managing landlord and tenant relationships by participants in a program. How do I know it? Because I've heard complaints. I do sit on some housing advisory boards. I am in the know. I'm in the what's happening in Washington, D.C. as it pertains to landlord and tenant matters. So I do know that is a fact, that landlords have found ways to try to prevent housing participants from renting their property. Now, there are lots of landlords who will willingly accept voucher participants or families and individuals who are participating in housing programs, right? And so the biggest thing is to make sure that whatever tenant you have in your rental property, that you are providing decent, safe, and sanitary housing. You're providing housing that is affordable and that the rents are not through the roof, okay? And so we know that in a lot of jurisdictions, the rent is just extremely high. One of the things that I've said time and time again, and I've told landlords, I've told those who are aspiring to become a landlord, such as investors, right, to treat your business like a business. Because if you treat it like a business, you're going to get paid like a business. But however, on the flip side, if you treat it like a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby. And I know that a lot of landlords have heard that and they have implemented that in their rental business practice, and it has definitely made a difference. Now, in this matter, usually, here is what happens in most cases when it comes to the larger property management companies. I know that some smaller landlords are not doing this, but here is what happens when it comes to larger management companies. They conduct market surveys, meaning that they are going out into the community or they're calling other competitors. They want to find out how much of the rent. They are comparing apples to apples. They may ask, how many one bedrooms do you have? What's the square footage of your one bedrooms? How much are you charging? What are the amenities for your one bedroom, your two bedroom, things of that nature, right? And so they are comparing rents for the different rental communities to make sure that they are also getting the best bang for their buck. Now, this can happen in two ways when it comes to a market survey. They can be a secret shopper, or they can do relationship building type of shopping. And what does that mean? That means that they could contact the competitors, say, hey, listen, I'm from ABC Company, and we're calling to see if you're running any rent specials for your one bedrooms or your two bedrooms. What amenities are you offering? And so the market survey can go two different type of ways. I teach students in property management as an educator. I teach individuals how to successfully and legally conduct market surveys, because that's something that as a housing provider, you definitely want to know how to do. Now, for the smaller landlords, meaning that you have maybe 20 or less units, you don't have like this portfolio where you have 1,000 or more doors, right? And so I get that the smaller landlords may not be conducting market surveys. And some of you who are self-managing your property, maybe you have one, maybe you have 2, 10, 15 rental doors, right? Maybe you've never even heard of a market survey and you don't even know how to conduct it. You don't know where to start. Well, listen, it doesn't cost you anything to check what your competitors are doing, right? And so in this situation, because someone asked me, well, Carissa, how do you think it's possible for someone to come together to price fix rents if it is true? And so if you have, for instance, competitors who are coming together and they're all entering the same information into a property management software, well, that's going to create a set price. Okay. And so this is one possibility in this alleged rental rent pricing scheme. Okay. So I just wanted to put that in there. It does impact landlords, right? So I said it impacts tenants, it impacts landlords, because with landlords, it creates unfair competition. So in this matter, I do want to give 3 tips for landlords. I want to give 3 tips for tenants. And so if you're a tenant, please stay tuned because I have some tips for you. But I want to touch on the landlords first. Okay. So with landlords, competition is key, right? We already know that there is competition. There's another competitor that's offering housing that's like yours, that's similar to yours, that may be newer than yours, that may offer amenities comparable, better, or even less than yours. All right. So let's just be clear that competitors are definitely important, but you want to engage in anti-competitive practices with other landlords or property management companies and software providers. That's a big no-no because you want to maintain healthy competition. You do that because this benefits both landlords and tenants. And so, number 2, for landlords, you want to make sure that you're providing a level of transparency. Be transparent in your pricing. Be transparent in your pricing strategies. How are you coming up with your rent, right? What is it based off of? And you want to adhere to ethical standards. Don't make stuff up, right? You want to also avoid sharing sensitive pricing data that may harm the affordability of rental housing. Third and finally, for landlords, you want to make sure that you are in legal compliance. You want to ensure that your business practice complies with antitrust laws and regulations to avoid legal consequences. So in this matter that I'm sharing today, if these landlords are found guilty, and again, this is allegedly, if this matter is true that the Attorney General is suing them and they are found guilty of price fixing rent, this is going to be a game changer. It could be a financial nightmare because it could require that they pay back these tenants. Now, also, let's factor in, if this is something that is happening, how long has it been happening? And will they have to go back 5 or 10 years, right? We don't know that. And so these are all the questions that people have. I'm carefully watching this story. I'm carefully going to stay tuned and update you as the public, landlords, competitors, as well as tenants equally, because again, it does impact the rental community. All right, so here are my tips for tenants on today. I always say that tenants should know your rights. Familiarize yourself with the laws, local laws, state laws. DC is not a state, but you still want to familiarize yourself with the laws of the District of Columbia or any jurisdiction for that matter if you are a tenant. Know what the laws are because there are laws that protect you as a tenant. The laws and the regulations are in place to make sure that landlords are doing what they're supposed to do. And this knowledge can definitely help you understand your rights as well as protections against unfair rent increases. I know that DC, because it is pro-tenant, that tenants, if they don't know their rights, they quickly learn their rights because there are a lot of advocacy groups that are in place to help tenants understand, to know, and to act on their rights. And the second tip for tenants I want to share today is if you think that the rents are too high, you can definitely shop around. I always recommend tenants to shop around. I also educate tenants in a tenant readiness program. I always tell tenants, shop around, do your homework. If you think that the price is too high, check another community. I tell them to check the community because it's important, not just for rent, but to make sure that it's where they want to live. Because at the end of the day, it's where they're going to call home. Explore the values of the property. Explore and compare prices to make sure that as a tenant, you are getting a fair deal. And then third, and as importantly for tenants, tip number 3, report unfair practices. There are a lot of landlords who don't know the laws. Okay. Now, sometimes people do things, and here's what I've come to know just studying the behavior of humans. People do things for 2 reasons. 1, because they don't know, or 2, maybe because they don't care. But in any event, sometimes bad things happen to good people. And the laws don't really care about the character of people, whether they're good, whether they're bad. The laws are in place to make sure that landlords are adhering to the laws. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why I come on these platforms and I share information, because I want to make sure that landlords and tenants are educated about things that are happening. All right. If you have questions, I always provide my email address. I'm going to give that to you today in case any of you would like to communicate with me when I'm not live, when I'm not online. If you need some help, you can always email me. I will respond. Okay. But to make sure that I'm clear on today, again, I just want to make sure that we are having these conversations because they are important. And again, all this is alleged, but I want you to just think long term how something like this does negatively impact the rental community. I know that one in particular, the companies that's identified in this suit was not aware of this practice, this alleged scheme. And so, again, I wanted to just come back and update you all from last week's subject and segment, rather, because this company, they expressed that they were not in agreement. They have not colluded with their competitor, part of this scheme. But that's the information that's out in the community, right? And so sometimes you can do the right thing and still get bad results. So I don't want to necessarily scare you if you're a landlord, but I do want you to understand that there are consequences for doing things that are illegal. So again, know what the laws are in the jurisdiction that your rental property is in. So I know that some of you have properties in different states, right? You have property in different states, different cities. You want to make sure that you understand the laws in every jurisdiction, because what apply in DC may not apply in PG County, Maryland. What apply in PG may not apply in Atlanta. I have viewers who They tune in, you all tune in from different parts of the United States. And you know that the laws are different in every jurisdiction. And so please govern yourselves accordingly. Know what the laws are. Doesn't matter if you're a tenant. Doesn't matter if you're a landlord. It doesn't matter if you're new, if you're experienced, if you are thinking about getting into property management. Please know what you can and cannot do, because all it takes is one mistake that could cost you a lot, right? And so in this situation, this gives the appearance that these landlords are coming together for this rental price fixing scheme. Now, we don't know the outcome, and here's what I do know. I do know that the social media news outlets will hype up situations and will give the appearance that it's something that it actually is not. I know that firsthand, right? And so I wanted to come back and do a recap of part 2, because it's only the fair and the right thing to do. All right. So again, this is all alleged, but I'm definitely going to watch this matter carefully. I've shared tips for landlords because I want you all to follow this matter as well. And so although this matter is in DC, this matter is not just restricted to DC. This is happening in other areas and other jurisdictions, other states and cities. Okay. So I shared the 3 tips for landlords today. I talked about the competition. Competition is key. I shared how you want to be transparent in your pricing strategies, as well as adhering to ethical standards. The 3rd tip that I shared today for landlords is making sure that your business practice is in legal compliance. I've shared 3 tips also for tenants, that as a tenant, you should and you must know your tenant right. You should, secondly, as a tenant, shop around. 3rd and finally, report unfair practices. Okay, let me share my email address with you. And if you have questions, please drop it in the comment section today. And again, I just wanted to just do a recap from last week, because I know that based off of the feedback that I needed to touch on this again. But let me share my email address with you for those of you who have additional questions. I don't want to hold up much of your time, but I did want to just come back and touch on this. So here is my email address at the bottom of the screen here, info@landlordlife.com, info@landlordlife.com. Listen, this is what I do each and every Monday. It costs you nothing but your time to show up to get this information every Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Facebook, right here on LinkedIn, as well as YouTube. You can find me live. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And I just want to make sure that if any of you have questions, comments, remarks, or observations, drop it in the comment section. I will address it now while I'm live and online. If not, that is my email address again there. You can always email me. So next week, I'm going to come back 7:30 p.m. I will discuss a different topic that is applicable for the rental community. It will be beneficial for landlords. It will definitely be beneficial for tenants. Okay. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is where you can find me. Are there any questions that you all have pertaining to this matter or any other landlord and tenant matters? Are there any questions? I'll wait a few seconds, and I hope that I brought some clarity. I brought some insight into this matter. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and I hope that it's not true, but I'm not surprised by some of the things that are happening. I've been in the industry for almost 30 years, and I said it so many times this year that we are going to see a lot of lawsuits against landlords because of unethical business practices. So I'm hoping that this story is not true, because this would definitely be a costly mistake by these companies if the Attorney General has filed suit and they are found guilty of it. So I'm going to monitor this closely. I'm going to update you as soon as I have information, but I definitely wanted to share it with you so that you all will be aware of what's happening in the community. Usually I share general information that impacts rental communities throughout the United States, but this matter is in Washington, D.C., but it's not just isolated, like I said, to DC. So that's all I have for you on today. I don't see any comments, any questions that have come in. But again, that is my email address at the bottom of the screen. Thank you so much for tuning in. My time is up. I thank you. I definitely thank you for yours. Please make sure that you tune in next Monday right here on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and YouTube. And again, my email address is available. Hey, Joe, thank you so much for tuning in. If you are interested in information that will help you with your business, please feel free to reach out to me. Just by way of announcement, I've announced this on Facebook last week. I don't think I announced it on LinkedIn or YouTube. I am now implementing affordable housing workshops for tenants to show people how to apply for affordable housing, which includes Section 8. So here's a thing that I know that many don't know about the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. When people enter into these programs, the government subsidizes their rent, and it's always based on income. They look at income, they look at family size, they look at allowances and deductions that they give the family to determine how much their tenant can afford to pay for rent. But now here's the thing, there are Section 8 housing programs available, and a lot of people don't know how to get that information. And so that's what my team and we are now providing. And not only can tenants get into these programs, but did you know that they can use their housing choice voucher to even purchase a home? And the agency will assist them with paying or subsidizing their mortgage for a set amount of years. And so we are now starting to implement those workshops. Our first one will be this week. I know that many of you have signed up. There is a nominal fee for that, but it's very small. We are providing a lot of information. We are providing tools. We are providing resources as well as help to help families and individuals in need. I know that a lot of people at this time cannot afford to purchase a home. And so they need a place to call home, and they want to make sure that it is affordable, and housing programs are available. Federal government, Congress, HUD, if you will, is pouring out money and resources into communities to help families and individuals in need. And so if you have questions, please email me. I will definitely get you that information on how you can sign up for this workshop. It is a one-day workshop. We will continue to work with tenants and families. We will follow with them monthly until they identify a housing program and get to the point where they actually are receiving assistance. And so it is my pleasure to add value to the rental community. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. Feel free to email me, info@landlordlife.com, info@landlordlife.com. Again, my time is up. I thank you for yours. Please make sure that you're tuning in each and every Monday right here, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'm Carissa, the landlord and tenant expert. I'll see you all next week. I'm going to say bye for now.